Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Very glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We have good, bad, and crazy martinis for you today, as perhaps today's the day you're heading out on the road for your Thanksgiving vacation. Today is our final regular episode for the week. Tomorrow is our very special Things We're Politically Thankful For episode. And then no show on Thanksgiving Day. And on Friday is our Black Friday special, where Jim and I come up with very valuable gifts for various political figures. So make sure you don't miss those episodes. But let's dive into where we are today. And Jim, don't tell the administration, because they're busy invoking emergency powers to create electric heating pumps and things like that because of the climate crisis. But it turns out a little bit closer analysis of the evidence shows we're not in the climate crisis that the left wants us to think we are, some sort of existential deal that if we don't act drastically in the next decade or even less than that now, the whole planet's going to implode. But the Telegraph in the UK with some important reporting here, quote, plants will absorb 20% more carbon dioxide than predicted by the end of the century, suggesting climate models are overestimating how fast the planet will warm. There's a shocker. Those UN estimates are always wildly overestimating things. Trinity College Dublin said its research painted an uncharacteristically upbeat picture for the planet after finding models had failed to take into account all the elements of photosynthesis. That's just a brand new concept they've come up with there. During photosynthesis, green plants use light energy from the sun to convert carbon dioxide, water, and minerals into the sugars that they need. Scientists thought climate change could weaken the process, but the new research suggests plants can adjust to the temperatures, effectively absorbing carbon dioxide, producing extra nutrients, and continuing to thrive. It's almost like these cycles are natural, but it also is backed up by a new study from the Ohio State University. It says trees are getting bigger because of more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and are likely to be helping mitigate global warming than climate models suggest. A new study from the university shows that tree trunk volume in the U.S. is up to 29% bigger than it was 30 years ago, a finding that is likely to be mirrored elsewhere in the world. So, Jim, it's amazing how nature just adapts to these changes in our environment, but don't let that mess up your hair on fire talking points, folks on the left.
I was going to say, if the climate change activists or those who are deeply worried about it had a certain modesty about this, I think their arguments would actually be more persuasive. If they would say, look, the entire planet is this very complicated ecosystem, and how they interact with each other, they're always influencing each other. Things tend to reach an equilibrium, but that doesn't mean it's always going to work out well for us human beings. So that would seem pretty reasonable. It's a big, complicated system. We can't predict with precision how each part of this is going to work, but you put more carbon in the atmosphere, it's going to make clouds heavier. You might have heavier storms, might have worse hurricanes, et cetera, et cetera. You can begin to see, okay, all right, there's the argument. Instead, it's always got to be that we are on the edge of absolute disaster. And one of the problems is they keep putting precise dates. Like I saw recently that just back a couple of years ago, 2019, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says. So let's see, we are 4 years past that. I guess we're down to 8. World's going to end in 8 years, which, by the way, might explain the attitude towards entitlement programs. If you think the world's going to end, then well, why? What do we care if this runs out in a couple of years? We're going to have much bigger problems than that if the world is ending. It also means you can be kind of laid back about Iran's nuclear program. If you really think the world's going to end in 12 years, you could just kind of blow off a whole bunch of long-term problems. But also you can go back to the first Earth Day in 1970 and all you go back a good 15 to 20 years. You can find a lot of environmentalists predicting that by, 10 years from now, 12 years from now, 15 years from now, the world will end. Things will be catastrophic. Look out our window. We see that, look, there are problems. There are natural disasters. There are increasing temperatures. People feel like the summers are hotter. You get less snow here in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm not, there's some stuff there, but it's not Doomsday. It's not the John Cusack movie. It's not that kind of stuff. And people really seem to believe that if we only, the only way you can motivate people is to make people believe that we are on the edge of disaster. And I actually think that doesn't work. I actually think it makes people think the whole point is useless. There's no point in it. I think it actually kind of, causes more of a sense of despair than it actually motivates people to vote the way they want, take the action they want, et cetera, et cetera.
No, I think that's right. And of course, the alarm bells have to go off when the prescription to the supposed problem is these drastic things that the left has been pushing for years. And now they just have a convenient vehicle to do it. If you stop eating all meat, we kill all the cattle, you don't go anywhere, and all these other things, maybe in 30 years, we can have a fraction of a degree. No, we're not giving up all our freedom and going poor just to see if this might possibly work. But that's kind of where this administration wants to go. So the planet's not on fire, but it was on fire yesterday, Jim. Biden's desk, after basically trying to ignore the fact that his birthday was yesterday and that he's 81 years old. For some reason, late in the day, they turned the lights down, it looked like, in the Oval Office and put this cake on his desk that literally looks like it's about to light the whole place on fire because they ring the thing with 81 candles. The fire marshal had to be just out of the shot of the camera, and so it's glowing in his face. I don't know who's running messaging over at the White House these days, but if you were trying to, say 81's not that many, that's not the image you wanted.
No, and my two thoughts, Greg, were first, when you reach that age with your grandparents or elderly parent, don't you usually get a big 8 and a big 1, like two candles with numerals, and you use those?
Yes.
Like there's a reason for that, And the second thing is, okay, credit where it's due. I will not blame Jamal Bowman for pulling a fire alarm in that circumstance. Completely understandable. Really did look like that table was going to set on fire.
Hey, y'all, this is Sarah from The Sarah Carter Show. Thanks for listening to 3 Martini Lunch. We could all benefit from heart-healthy energy, especially in this busy time of the year. One of the best ways to do that is to support your blood pressure and circulation with Super Beets Heart Chews. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than healthy lifestyle alone. And let me tell you something. When I'm traveling to New York, when I'm moving around the country, I need to feel optimum. I want to stay healthy and I want to feel energized. And I do that with Super Beets Heart Chews. I absolutely love the flavor. I know you will too. And I know you're going to feel great. They're a convenient way to support healthy blood pressure. Super Beets Heart Chews are plant-based and easy to add to your routine. No pills to swallow, no ingredients to mix or prepare. Double your potential with Super Beets Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews and a free full-size bag of turmeric chews valued at $25 by going to americalovesbeets.com. Get this exclusive offer only at americalovesbeets.com. That's americalovesbeets.com.
All right, on to our bad martini now, Jim. And gosh, there's so many different ways that the Middle East is the bad martini right now. But the Biden administration, in addition to probably taking a long time to get all those candles out yesterday, doesn't seem to want to really hold Iran accountable or hold their feet to the fire, if we're keeping the metaphor going here. But Iran just keeps getting more aggressive in the Middle East. We just found out last week, it's not 24 attacks on American military positions in the Middle East. It's more like 52. And who knows how many it is by now with these Middle East proxies that are loyal to Iran and bankrolled by Iran. We're also seeing that Hezbollah is getting more aggressive in the north, attacking parts of Israel, including an Israeli military base. But the one we're going to focus on here from the AP, Yemen's Houthi rebels, also bankrolled by Iran, seized an Israeli-linked cargo ship in a crucial Red Sea shipping route Sunday and took its 25 crew members hostage, raising fears that regional tensions heightened over the Israel-Hamas war were playing out on a new maritime front. The Houthi rebels said they hijacked the ship over its connection to Israel and would continue to target ships in international waters that were linked to or owned by Israelis until the end of Israel's campaign against Gaza's Hamas rulers. So whatever message the Biden administration thinks it's been sending with these targeted responses, I don't think it's gotten through yet, Jim.
I mean, that news is really ominous, Greg. I also noticed this article in the Washington Post. Quote, a surge in attacks on deployed U.S. forces has roiled some within the Defense Department, where officials, frustrated by what they consider to be an incoherent strategy in countering the Iranian proxies believed responsible, acknowledge the limited retaliatory airstrikes approved by President Biden have failed to stop the violence. There's no clear definition of what we are trying to deter, said one defense official, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to be candid. Are we trying to deter future Iranian attacks like this? Well, that's clearly not working, end quote. So, one of the things I have long believed is that even though Biden is getting fairly high marks from a bunch of folk, I mean, by comparison, on his support for Ukraine, on his support for Israel, Joe Biden came of age politically in the era of Vietnam. I think he has deep down dovish instincts. Recall that he was the one who believed that the raid to get bin Laden was too risky. I think Biden instinctively believes that his purpose is to prevent all those crazy warmongering generals of the Pentagon from doing all that stuff. And he knows better. And I think we saw it in Afghanistan. I think we saw it in his outreach to Putin to be stable and predictable relationship at the beginning of his presidency. I think you see it in the way he handles China. And I think we can see it in several other areas. And this is one of them. Right now, look, is there a risk of escalating with Iran? Yeah, there's risk. But on the other, they're attacking our guys. You got to do something. And as much if blowing up some ammunition storehouses or warehouses or camps and posts like that in the middle of the Syrian desert with these Iranian proxies, if that was going to do it, I'd be fine. I have no objection to that. I just don't think it's sufficient. And I think the reaction from Iran has made abundantly clear that it's, insufficient. And I think the Pentagon is saying to Biden, this is not sufficient. We're not deterring them. They are not frightened of us. They don't think we're actually going to do anything to them that's actually going to hurt. And I think the Biden administration is treating this the same way they treated Afghanistan. I know better. I'm not going to let you warmongers, apparently during the Obama years, Biden's whole advice is don't let the Pentagon push you around. Don't let them pigeonhole you or try to force your hand into doing something. You're in charge, not them, et cetera, et cetera. Biden has a deep-rooted, he talks about how much he loves the military. But when it comes to decision-making, he is just reflexively suspicious of the military. And I think policy messes like this are an almost inevitable consequence of a president who is absolutely convinced that he understands national security and national defense much better than all the people in that building with five sides.
Yes, which leads to the Robert Gates proclamation from a decade ago now saying Joe Biden's been wrong about everything in foreign policy for 40 years. Well, now it's 50. So is this just about this pathetic attempt to revive the nuclear deal? Is it just, why won't they get tougher on Iran here? I don't understand the incentive not to at this point, given what they're aiming at our own people and the mayhem they're causing in the region.
So just as I feel like people in the Middle East, people's perception in the Middle East and the reason we saw young people tearing down posters of kidnapped Israelis, et cetera, is that they psychologically pushed all their chips to the middle of the table and they bet on a certain thing. Right? In the case of some young people bet on the idea that Palestinians are the victims and the good guys and that Israelis are the aggressors and the bad guys. And something like the Hamas massacre happens and it's such a shock. It's so contrary to what they believe that they just can't deal with it. And there's kind of this reflexive psychological denial. Very early in the Obama administration, there was this mentality of we can reach a grand peace with the Iranian mullahs. They're much more reasonable than everybody thinks. They're much more understanding. They're much more aligned with us. You can attribute this to Valerie Jarrett. You can attribute this to Obama's, whatever it comes from. It kind of doesn't matter almost where it comes from. But there was this adamant belief, and you saw it also from the likes of Fareed Zakaria and that very infamous Newsweek cover, Everything You Know About Iran Was Wrong, that actually it's much more consensus driven and it's much more, the government is much more reasonable and they're much less, and it turns out everything Fareed Zakaria knew about Iran was wrong. That he had gone over there and met with the intellectuals and met with people who seemed reasonable and concluded, the regime is reasonable. The regime is not reasonable. And in fact, the fact that they chant, death to America when they start their parliament every time, that's a much more accurate representation of what they believe and what they think and their decision making. But anyway, Biden and Obama and the rest of the crew pushed all their chips and bet that Iran could be a reasonable partner for peace. And no matter how much the evidence piles up that it's not working that way, they cannot let go of that because it would mean admitting that they completely misread a situation, which Robert Gates warned us about.
All right, Jim, time to talk about our great sponsor for today, and that is 4Patriots, makers of many fantastic products, including the Patriot Power Generator 2000X, now with double the capacity and more peak power than ever before, plus new expandable capability for even more power. Keep your critical appliances running, your fridge, your freezer, medical devices, and a whole lot more with this solar-powered generator, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. There's also the best-selling survival food kits. Delicious tasting, designed to last for 24 years. great in an emergency when you can't get out and get to the store for any reason. Also, many other fine products, the Patriot Power Blender, the Leafy Green Hydro Garden and Floral Seed Kits, and the Sun Kettle Solar Cooker. So many fantastic products. Check them all out for yourself at 4patriots.com/martini. Go there to see this week's discounts and deals before they are gone and get free shipping on orders over $97. Save more and get peace of mind now by going to the number 4patriots.com/martini. That's 4patriots.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our crazy martini now. And this is just amazing. You know, every once in a while, you'll hear stories where burglars will break into people's houses and then they'll trip and fall down the stairs and break a leg. And they'll sue the homeowner of the place they broke into for their injuries and their medical bills. And sometimes they actually win. It's insane. Well, this is kind of the idea that USA Today is trying to push here in the sob story about people getting injured climbing over the bigger border walls now. So they start with this story of this woman, trying to clamber over a 30-foot high wall. And then shocker of shockers, when she, flips over to the other side, she broke her leg. And so then the story says that emerging public health data affirm what border county hospital trauma surgeons have been suspecting since the U.S. government began raising the height of the southwest border wall to slow migration. The 30-foot fence causes more injuries and is far deadlier than any barrier before it. Physicians say the falls and fatalities are a public health crisis for border communities at a time when the Biden administration and the state of Texas are investing in new border fencing. County hospitals in El Paso and San Diego are receiving patients with border wall fall-related trauma at a rate of 1 per day in 2023. They carry a mortality rate that is higher than COVID in the general population, they say as they try and hype this up. Jim, if you're not supposed to climb the wall, but you do it anyway and then get hurt, is that really the wall's fault? Because the way that this story makes it sound, this is Donald Trump's fault for trying to put a barrier on the southern border. This is quite the spin.
You know, Greg, when you tell me that statistic, that attempting to climb over a 30-foot border wall is more dangerous to you than COVID, my first reaction is, all those migrants trying to climb it, were they wearing masks? Take appropriate precautions, people. Semi-seriously, you realize we live in a world where every time, every app on my phone keeps updating, and I have to go through the rules, and somewhere in there, there's fine print that says you have rights to my firstborn or something like that. I have to sign away my right to sue anybody and everybody for every little thing in existence. But, border walls, well, what are you going to do? It's this bizarre, contrary idea of look, buyer beware. You are totally responsible for everything you do, ordinary American citizen. But migrants, what are you going to do? By the way, Greg, weren't we told during this border fencing fight going back several years, well, if you build an 18-foot border wall, they're just going to go out and get a 19-foot ladder.
Yep.
I mean, first of all, do these people put up Christmas lights? I hate ladders, and apparently, oodles and oodles of household accidents involve ladders. You're always hearing about people falling off roofs and all that stuff. And so I hate going up on there, and so it wouldn't be surprised. I don't like, not particularly a big fan of heights as is. So the idea, oh my goodness, the 40-foot border wall. Well, first of all, it's a 40-foot border wall. Well, weren't we warned these guys were just going to get 41-foot ladders? It doesn't work. Well, lo and behold, first of all, ladders are heavy and nobody wants to carry them out to the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, so they can climb the border wall. Secondly, once you're up at the top, how do you get the ladder to the other side to get it down?
Apparently you don't. That's why they're falling over and breaking limbs.
Step one, all of us we can foresee this. Why the migrants can't foresee this, I don't understand. The second is, I guess you need either two, or while you're somehow there straddling the wall, which I believe has little spiky things at the top. It is not meant to be comfortable to hang out at that top. You have to lift up this heavy 41-foot ladder and then put it down on the other side and get it secure and then climb down on the other side. Lo and behold, 40-foot border walls are really hard to climb over. Maybe people should stop trying to climb over them. Look, I know the president sounded ridiculous when he talked about moats full of alligators and all that kind of stuff. But first of all, I do think from this, it is reasonable to conclude that there is a deterrent effect. I had all kinds of objections when Trump began his presidential campaign and said, they're not sending their best. But if you try to climb over a 40-foot border wall and are surprised when you get hurt, well, then yes, maybe they aren't sending their best, or at least at minimum, they're not sending their Mensa candidates.
This is the quote from this woman, Vicky Gabecca, Associate Director of U.S. Immigration and Border Policy for Human Rights Watch. Quote, the rationale is that at 30 feet, your body naturally experiences vertigo and makes it easier to fall off the wall. We're talking about the equivalent of a 3-story building. And here's the beautiful one. It almost seems intentional that they built it that high.
I don't mean to interrupt. It almost seems intentional. Like they, like they're trying to tell us not to do this. Like they're trying to make it dangerous, And really, if they wanted illegal entering the country to be safe, they wouldn't have a border wall at all. Now, wouldn't they? Greg, it really makes you think.
Can't think of a crazier story to end our usual programming with this week, as of course we'll have those 2 special episodes later in the week. But have a great day, and I will officially talk to you tomorrow. But in reality, I'll talk to you on Monday.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and be careful on ladders, particularly when attempting to cross the southern border.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast if you don't already, and tell some friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Keep those coming, please. Also, join us on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Tuesday, and join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.